and in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place.
You are not content with the stories. Somebody's lives come. Be my victim.
Through watching scenes of violence, through watching scenes of transgression, through watching scenes of horror. There's an enormous amount of sort of abattoiral excess.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Good evening, chat. How are you doing? This is the 97th episode of Double Feature Horror Show. I hope you are doing well. Oh, okay. Can you let me know, chat? Can you hear me okay? Because we got a little interesting setup here. It is just me at the moment. I am not yet joined by my good friend and co-host TCG. But I do have...
You just said it's just me at the moment, and I'm sat right here.
Yeah, well, I was going to add you in.
Oh, is he?
You're an accompaniment.
Oh, okay, well, I've just ruined that one.
You're a side, a seasoning.
Oh, I see. I see
Yeah.
what you're doing. Clever.
See, it's all planned. It's all planned. It's not like I just sort of fumble my way around this and make this up as I go along. Chat, can you tell me? Can you hear me? And can you hear waifu? This will help me know that the audio levels are fine, and that this isn't some really weird, lazy, hackneyed twist where it's just me all along, and I'm imagining waifu in my head.
There is actually there's a influencer on Instagram who has schizophrenia, and he uses his phone camera to work out whether or not he's hallucinating. Modern problems require modern solutions.
Yeah, that's creative and terrifying. Interesting. Well, chat, as I said, TCG is going to be along shortly, so I'll have to work out which obscure and earwormy late 90s dance track I used to refer to him by when I introduce him. For the moment, though, I think I really want to discuss a little film with the name of the menu.
Yes. Oh, waifu is tinny.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Waifu, we might need you a little bit closer to the mic.
Is the mic unable to move because of that time I accidentally broke it?
You customized it. You modded it unconventionally.
Yes, I thought it was a bit too what's the word? A bit too normy to have a microphone stand that actually stands up, so I broke it.
We're getting by though.
I was trying to help fix it, and it wasn't even broken. Butch problems.
But you made it broken.
It's
and
true.
Then at that point you'd correctly diagnosed the issue.
That's true. Just to warn you, everyone, Gatsby will be chatty tonight because neither of us is there to provide lap. We've given him a blanket that's in the same room as us, but he has strong opinions about it. So, as you can hear.
That is one of those opinions. I'm letting people roll in, nice and relaxed. I'm sure you're ready for this. This was a little unplanned. We're going to go something else, but I saw a recommendation for the menu from an account I really like, and people were keen on this movie. People were not just keen, but they were also furious about it. So people were saying this was an amazing film, or they were saying it was absolute trash, it was terrible, and they hated it.
All of those people are wrong.
Well, yeah, but when a movie is really divisive, I think that's a good sign. If people had come along and said, how's the menu? It's like, it's all right.
It's standard.
Would we be doing it? No.
No, that's true. That's true.
I wanted to see what was making people angry. So, chat, I realise this is a relatively recent film. You may not have all seen it. And So I've got a high chance of actually spoiling. Yeah, that is a word.
Yeah.
I started wondering if that was a word as I was saying it. Spoilerizing.
Spoiler-gating.
Oh dear. So I know there's an actual chance that I might actually
Despoiling.
despoiling.
There we go.
I know there's a decent chance that I might spoil you on this movie. I don't think I will ruin it too much. We'll maybe leave a little bit of a gap before we discuss the very end of the movie, if we can, and give you a little bit of a chance. And then if you get the feeling from early on that you want to duck out, not have the thing spoiled for you, then that's absolutely fine. We will not be offended. I absolutely love this movie, and I wouldn't want to ruin it for anyone.
No, that's true. That is true, particularly because it didn't go in the direction I was expecting it to go in at all.
Yeah.
Which was nice. I appreciated that.
Would you like to lead in on that? I mean, shall we do a little bit of history, or like production history, or shall we just get into that worry?
Should we do that worry first, then you can nerd out on the production history side of things?
You go for it. Rock on, waifu.
One of the things we started discussing pretty much as soon as the film started was that we were kind of expecting it to do... Okay, so it's a psychological thriller, sort of very tense film, and it's called The Menu. It felt like the obvious conclusion was going to be, all the guests are actually going to become next night's food. They're all going to get killed and turned into dinner, particularly because... they go on this tour of this island that the restaurant's based on, and there's a smokehouse where they cure their protein, and they referred to it all as protein. And there were lots of ominous shots of the kind of stark landscape of the island, all of which, to me in Horrorshow, while we were watching it, we were sort of thinking, oh, they're building it up, they're building it up. What I was expecting to see was like a corpse in like half in the water that no one had spotted, or like the person who's fishing up scallops brings up a hand or whatever, and that's a sort of a hint at actually it's he harvests his guests and serves them to the following night of people. So it was very delightful that that's not, sorry, spoilers, I'm despoiling you all now, that's not where it went, which was lovely, because I'm trying to think of I now can't immediately think of any other films. Was there one called Raw?
There was Raw. I haven't seen that. But it's one of those things where if you have a thing focused around food, you're waiting for this specific twist.
Yeah, it's actually people. Or the one where Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
Is another one. There's always... I mean, it goes back... If you want me to get briefly nerdy and classical... Yes, Gatsby. Okay. You could say that it's... that twist harks right back to an ancient Greek myth of the sort of feud between Atreus and Thyestes, which triggered... sorry, this has brought back a lot of ancient history in my brain, literal ancient history. So Thyestes and Atreus were brothers. For various reasons, they were kind of feuding with each other. Atreus invited Thyestes to his house to sort of try and make amends, and served him dinner made of his own children, which then Thyestes naturally... cursed his brother and his brother's descendants. Atreus' son was Agamemnon, who anyone who's a fan of the Iliad or the Trojan War will have heard of. He was the sort of leader of Greece. And then his family basically all kind of fell apart, and it was just a constant continuing familial curse. I don't know why I've gone off on this tangent, but I suppose the idea of horror films about food, harking back to that final twist being, you're actually eating someone. It's tale as literally as old as time.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to reference the cheap and nasty Hong Kong horror film Dumplings. So you've raised the bar quite considerably. I mean, which is appropriate. This is a classy film.
I mean, I'm now immediately thinking of lots of other similar twists in horror or horrific moments in literature of various kinds. There's obviously Titus Andronicus, and also there's a canto in Dante's Inferno where a chap is imprisoned in a tower outside Pisa with his children, and his name's Ugolino, and he goes a bit mad and eventually eats them, and then they let him out of the tower, and he's alone and has survived this long punishment, but all his children are dead because he ate them. And I think that's the thing that some sadistic ancient, medieval Italian actually did. Italy has zero chill.
No, ancient Italy does not mess around, does it?
No, it did not come to play with these hoes. It came to
dear.
mash them.
So, yeah, our point was we were worried that it was going to be the big revelation, the big surprise twist that everyone saw coming a mile off. And that didn't happen. That just didn't happen. And I was delighted. And it could have still worked. But
Yeah, and it would have done it stylishly and beautifully, but I think it would have left us wanting more.
Definitely. It just, it doesn't work as a big reveal. But they haven't gone for it, which is nice. I just want to say hi to all the regulars in the chat as well. I'm seeing Maverick Hunter there, 70 Sue, good to see. I hope you all managed the homework. I see a few people have said that they haven't managed to see it, and that's okay. We'll play careful with it. I think Years may have ducked out, so I missed the chance to say hi to her. But Years, watching on the replay, howdy. I hope you had some good gaming.
Mr. GB has made a request.
Oh, I can make it. Well, in a film about the menu, I guess we could have some coarse jokes. Coarse jokes, because fine.
I'm just going to leave you with that dead air.
Yeah. Okay.
That was relatively good. I forgive you. That was
No worries.
it's for that sort of pun that I married you.
Oh, you're very welcome. There was a rather dirty joke at the start of this that surprised me.
Was there?
Yeah, a reference to mouthfeel.
Oh, yes.
They know exactly what they were doing with that one.
I mean, I can't help feeling like anyone who uses the word mouthfeel is now deliberately referencing ContraPoint's explanation of the certain delights of exotic gentlemen.
Family friendly stream. Family friendly, please. Oh dear. 72, it might just be my pronunciation. Coarse as in rough or unfiltered, but spelt differently. I will type it in the chat. That is how I spell that,
That
isn't
is,
it?
yes. And also,
Instead of course. There we
I was
go.
about to start explaining the concept of first and second courses in dinner, which no one needs explaining to them.
No, we're good. All right. Anyway, I didn't manage to find it. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm glad you won't be thrown off by us going full spoiler when we get to that point. That is good to know. All right. Lovely. Well, before we get fully into it, we're on YouTube, so there is a thing we have to do. We've got to get some shilling on, haven't we?
That is true.
All right, lovely. Well, yeah, before we discuss the killing, we'll get on down and shilling. It is it's always the most awkward part of the stream, so let's get into it. Folks, you are here on YouTube. You know how you can support the stream. Some people have been absolutely lovely in doing that. They have been sending super chats, which you can do on here. And sometimes those are requests for films to cover. I like to honour that where I can. So March, we've got 2 of those films we're going to cover. One of the best ways that you can support me, though, is by joining as a member. And the reason I prefer that is because when you join as a member, I am able to give you access to exclusive content, early releases, behind the scenes stuff, especially the Easter egg posts where I talk about some of the things allegedly hidden in videos. Not that I would ever do that. So it's my way of being able to reward you. And also, Susan takes a lot less of a cut from memberships. And if you go on Subscribestar, then barely any cut is taken. So
Not
that is
Susan anymore.
No, Susan's been taken out.
I don't know who the new Susan is, but whoever it is, if Susan's still taking a cut of the profits, then Susan needs to stop.
I believe it's a man by the name of Neil Mohan. Yeah.
I was about to dox myself.
Yeah. Don't you? It's not going to be someone you know. It's not going to be someone you know. But maybe Neil's going to be benevolent. What do you reckon?
I doubt it.
No. Anyway, so fewer cuts are taken on Subscribestar, so that would be brilliant. If you want to, if you feel like doing that, if you feel like supporting the stream, if you feel like supporting the larger project of my series on Blockbuster, you've got all the links you need to do that below in the description. That's about all I can do, shilling-wise. You know, I'm too English for it. I just can't do it.
She's a shy lass,
It's true.
unlike Gatsby.
There you go. I'll get Gatsby to shill next time.
You were literally on a blanket behind us, and that was fine.
He will do this over the course of this stream. He will do this. But anyway, that is the shilling done. I'll point out I've been doing quite a lot of recording over the weekend as well, so there's some stuff coming out. And
No,
Mr.
Mr. GB.
I've changed my mind. No super chats anymore.
Mr. GB, please, for the love of all that is sacred, tell me there isn't a Plan 10 from outer space.
What do you reckon? Like a fan film, like someone's made a sequel.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think it can be worse than Plan 9. Famous last words.
I don't know. All right. Thank you, Mr. GB. Much appreciated.
I would also
Very
say that
welcome.
our review of the 9th plan was just vitriolic rather than good, but I'll take that.
We had a good approach at it. Like,
Rage.
we just worked through some scenes and said the name Dudley Manlove a lot.
That is true. Go appreciate the man love.
Much appreciated, Mr. Gently Benevolent. Much appreciated indeed.
She just saluted,
Oh.
so you know.
Yeah, I forget that. I forget people can't see. Oh dear. All right, folks. Well, I really hope that's a joke. I really, really do. All right, folks. So I think as Mr. True Crime Guy, that crime guy. Oh dear. As TCG isn't here, I think we might end up bumping the topic because I really want to go into it in detail. And last time his Scream 6 predictions were quite fun. They weren't true.
Scream 5.
Sorry, Scream 5 predictions were, they were massively off the mark, but they were very entertaining. And frankly, I would have loved it if they had been true. So I'll probably wait until he is here, and I think we'll do it for another one. Oh no, there is actually a Plan 10. Oh no. No. Oh.
We need to honour that request, but I wish we didn't need to honour that request.
Oh, I've got standards, guys. I've got standards, I'm afraid. Okay.
What if you just watched The Human Centipede 3?
Oh, what part of standards isn't getting anyway?
Oh, right on Fez, just to let you know, we have cracked and we are both enjoying a martini tonight. We are rocking Wine Aunt chic in...
Oh, yeah.
We're wearing onesies. Horrorshow is dressed as a...
I think I'm a koala.
Yeah, she's a koala and I'm a hedgehog, but we've also got martinis, so, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, it's very cold here, so we figure get on the onesies, let's have a martini to salute our good friend, Right Honourable Fez. We thought, as you've been so scandalised every time when we've been dry, so this one's for you, buddy.
Anyway.
It's all for you. Okay. We will get back on track while there are 15 people here who don't want to hear us talk about onesies.
This is why you don't get me on the stream.
It's a different vibe, isn't it?
I get drunk and rabbit.
I like it. Okay, so here we go. The menu. It was billed to me as a horror comedy. I would not say it is specifically particularly horrific.
Nor is it particularly comic.
No, it's got some dry stuff. It's got some moments of black humor, but effectively it is playing on the theme of fine dining, not just fine, but the sort of auteur level creations that we've probably seen featurettes on.
MasterChef type stuff.
Oh, far beyond MasterChef. We're talking like Heston level, Heston Blumenthal level.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah. One of the things I did to really land that aspect is there is a lot in the film of shots of the food. I'm going to show you some of those shots now because they're just so gorgeous. Forgive the clicking. I'm just trying to get everything in place. Oh, here we go. We'll go with this one first. High concept cooking as a basis for a thriller. Here we go. I always forget how awkward it is to do this. There we go. That should be it. So there's a satirical element here as they serve a bread plate without the bread. Now, lots of this shot, they spend a lot of time really convincing you of the concept by featuring close-up, gorgeous photography of the food. It is stunning, and they have these title cards as well, which they're presenting, which is sort of breaking the frame, but used to good effect.
I'd also say it's the touches like the typefaces they use and the spacing is very helps to kind of create that impression as well. Although I will say there's a shot at the end where she's looking at the menu, and the paper they printed the menu on looks like relatively cheap paper for a restaurant where you're paying $1,200 to eat there.
They did mention it was about 12. I think our good friend Nicholas Holt, who plays Tyler, said that it was $1,250. He was saying per ticket. But even then, I think like would that cover everything? Given that they had about 20 people in the room, would that have covered the night's costs? I don't know. I wondered about that. I almost wondered if they were undercharging, but that's possibly leading us astray. This was originally going to be directed by Alexander Payne of Sideways. He was moved out. I couldn't find details on why. And the directing was taken over by a chap named Mark Mylod. Does that name ring any bells?
No, I was wondering if I'd seen the film Sideways, if I'd get that reference.
It was pretty well received. It was about what would you say? People who are experts in wine. The word
sommeliers.
Yes, thank you. That word just disappeared from my vocabulary. It was terrible. It was about sommeliers, so I think that might have been the connection, but I can't really see it myself.
No.
But anyway, Mark Mylod takes over. Now, that's not a name I was familiar with. And so I had a brief look up. Okay. Oh, he's a TV guy. Okay. He did very well for this. And I'm looking back. He's a British TV guy. Now, how British is Mark Mylod? He is Shooting Stars with Vic and Bob.
Oh, wow.
That's how British he is. He directed All Rise for Julian Clary in 1996.
Shooting Stars, Unviewed and Nude.
He directed episodes of The Fast Show. He directed episodes of Baddiel Syndrome. We'll forgive him.
The Royal Family.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Cold Feet with John Thompson.
British Shameless.
Yep. Okay, he also did Game of Thrones and Succession, so he's done bigger productions, but
Hang on. Once Upon a Time, was that slightly batshit fairy tale? Sorry.
Oh, waifu!
I loved it, but it was definitely mad.
Yeah, it was a bit special. It was a bit I don't know what the heck was going on. It's like just someone had a whole load of IP and they were just going to do whatever.
Yep.
I found that a very confusing show. So yeah, he's a British TV guy going way back, and it seems like he's recently had success, and Game of Thrones seems to have been his way in.
Wait, he did a Game of Thrones episode?
Yeah, he did a late series. So he did some season 5, season 6, and season 7.
Do those really count as Game of Thrones?
It hurts. It hurts to remember. But anyway, guy did a pretty darn amazing job. From making decisions like hiring someone who shot this kind of food porn gastronomy style.
Hang on, I'm not allowed to say batshit, but you're allowed to say the word porn.
Food porn. That's fine, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. Ask the audience.
I don't know. Oh, Fez, you're saying this had a lot of Succession. Is that as in it looks like the series Succession? I haven't seen it, so I don't know. What it reminded me of massively was American Psycho, and more recently, Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the South Korean thriller with dark comedy elements as well. Parasite won the Best Picture at the Academy Awards last year, I believe.
It was it? No, I think it was the year before.
It could have been the year before.
I'm not sure.
It's recent. It's recent.
A very good film.
Yes, I think, and I, with full apologies because I can never do Korean names, I think it was Boon Jong-ho. did it, I think. Anyway, good director. We enjoyed it. I was really reminded of that. Elements of extreme tension, but not exactly horror.
Yeah.
And very dark comedy is what's in there. And that's what made me think of particularly Parasite and American Psycho, because otherwise this film is very atypical. Do you feel like doing the Guinness summary for the menu for people who haven't seen it?
I can't do you the Guinness summary, but I will do you a careful aeration of a bottle of Chianti of single, not just single vineyard grapes, but single vine grapes, Chianti, or whatever. So a very slow pour of a glass of wine, and I'll do my best. All right, here we go. So the film essentially focuses... I'll start again. We're introduced to two characters at the start of the film, a slightly sulky looking girl with no buccal fat, who's smoking, and a clearly quite obsessive and quite picky boyfriend character played by Nicholas Hoult. And they are about to go to a very exclusive restaurant on an island. He is clearly extremely excited. So we're set up quite early that he's not just a fan of fine dining, he's an enthusiast, he's a connoisseur. She's a bit of a cold fish. We see various other characters, some stockbrokers, a sort of past his prime actor, a glamorous food critic, a sort of slightly dowdy looking but very clearly very wealthy elderly couple. They arrive at the island where the restaurant is. They're greeted by a slightly sort of peculiar looking woman who is going to give them a tour of the island before taking them to the restaurant for their exclusive dining experience. She then encounters our girl Anya Taylor-Joy and is very surprised to find that the reservation that had been made had someone else's name down instead of hers. So your boy Nicholas Hoult has neglected to tell them that there's been a change of plan and he's bringing a different guest with him. So they tour various places, like they see the coastline where someone is fishing for scallops for dinner that night. They look at the smokehouse where the protein is being matured. And then they arrive at the restaurant. Your woman is already being quite bitchy and sulky. I'm letting the wine breathe. She's being quite bitchy and sulky already, and clearly being a bit of a...
She's not engaging, is she?
No, she's not engaging, and she's being quite dismissive of her, we assume, boyfriend's enthusiasm and passion for what they're about to encounter. He is a bit annoying, a bit over the top, but, it's clearly a thing that matters to him. Then Ralph Fiennes is the chef, and he's introduced with a lot of drama. He clearly has a lot of power in the scenario, as you would as the chef. And he introduces each course with a massive clap, and the whole restaurant falls silent and says, "Chef, yes, chef," etc., etc. And so the film kind of gets underway, progressing through the courses. Each of the courses are they're given different themes and different names. My brain has just frozen. All of the courses essentially are tying together an underlying message that the chef has that no one currently in the restaurant really picks up on at first. But we see things like the breadless bread plate.
I'd just point out on that, actually, this is something of a clue that they deliberately drop early on and tell us explicitly. They have Tyler explaining to Margot, thank you.
Which is not her actual name.
Anya Taylor-Joy's character. I mean, it's pretty obvious early on it's not her actual name, like they hammer that home. But he explicitly tells us that there will be a hidden theme in the that you guess over the course of the meal. And so by him telling her that, that's telling us, the audience, to look out for it.
Yes.
Which was quite nicely done. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I feel like I'm really allowing the wine to breathe as I decant it. So we go through the courses. It's things like the breadless bread plate, which, you start off thinking how pretentious, he's kind of taking the mick here. And then it moves on to things like a course called Memory, which is a take on Taco Tuesday. And the chef has laser printed images onto tortillas that are being served to each of his guests. And the laser printed images are things that are specific to them, secrets they're trying to hide. For example, you discover that the stockbrokers have been involved in a massive fraud perpetrated by their bank. There's a man, the man and his wife discover that there's a picture of him with another woman. So that's clearly being fed in, there's infidelity there. And that kind of thing. So you learn that all of the characters in the restaurant have secrets that they're trying to hide or not. And also that there's a creepy level of knowledge that the restaurant staff have about their guests. Which is why the chef is confused and troubled by Margot. And so he keeps wanting to talk to her and wanting to find out more about her. So you end up with some really beautiful scenes with just Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy in his office, and he's trying to find out from her who she is, what she's about, and why she's there. Which leads to a conversation about, essentially, are you one of them or one of us? Which sets up, as Fez has pointed out, the message, or one of the messages of the film, which is about, are you in the sort of service industry class, essentially, or group, or are you in the kind of parasitic upper echelon class of people who just take? So it's, do you take or do you give, is the implication. Obviously, with this kind of film, things deteriorate over time. You have things like, an aspiring chef gets to present one course, which is called the mess. And after having served it out, he then, part of the serving of the course is him shooting himself in the head, or self-shuffling off the mortal coil. And it kind of degenerates. Things start to fall apart. People's secrets get frayed. I don't know how much detail to go into at this point. I don't want to sort of go blow by blow.
Let's just say sort of that moment, the mess is the clear turning point where it's officially, things are weird, things are scary, they aren't safe, and they need to watch out. That
this is not going the way they expected the evening to go.
Yeah, you might be somewhat reminded of a film we covered a long time ago, Would You Rather, as guests are invited to what seems like a quirky weird game that increasingly adds attention. So it becomes a question of survival. It becomes a question of what's the end game? What's the chef actually doing? Are they going to get out of it? I see questions around the length of it have gone in. Yeah, it's about 100 minutes.
It really is worth it.
Yeah, it doesn't drag it out.
No.
And interpreting it is half the fun, because we watched this and then I think we talked for about an hour about it, trying to unpick everything in it.
Yeah, and to be fair, it had finished quite late, and we tend to go to bed early because of the chickens. So it had finished about 10 o'clock, and we stayed up till gone 11 talking about it, which is unusual for us because we're old women. But yeah, something about it really stuck. Shall I cover a couple of the sort of later? I'm trying to think of some of the later key plot points.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but
maybe what happens to Tyler, or shall we cover that later?
I think let's leave the end discussion for a little bit. So, folks, we're not going to go with the full discussion of the ending for the moment, because I think we can unpack the general stuff. I'm seeing there's discussion of the message. So this is something we talked about. Do you think that's fair? Do you think, as a starter for 10, hey,
an amuse-bouche?
Do you think this was on message with Netflix and what they like to put out there? Is this film woke, basically?
I don't know that it is. It definitely, on a surface level, it's very much about, look how hollow and immoral, sort of amoral the upper classes are, and how sort of awful and exploitative they are. And look how sort of down to earth and real, well, no, they don't even get there. But it's largely a skewering of sort of wealth and pretension and privilege. But I would say that its message of like who's the victim, who's the survivor, is a bit complex. You know, you'd sort of expect. The message was a bit scattered, Prepper. I definitely say
Awfully
that.
scattered.
Awfully scattered. I would, yeah, because I was about to say, you know, oh, it's about sort of privilege versus, you know, sort of service industry. But then again, I would say that, you know, yes, they live in very ascetic conditions, but the sort of life, you know, I shouldn't imagine that working in that kind of restaurant, it may be hard and stressful. I mean, it definitely is hard work and stressful and sort of overwhelming. But at the same time, I would say if you're working in, it's hardly Mackie D's, is it? You know, it's not sort of cleaning hotel toilets. It's a very different kind of service industry. So it's not like it was doing a sort of, oh, look, they don't care about the serving staff. And ultimately, that wasn't what the chef was trying to push back against or to say.
Yeah, I would suggest that he was going for a very different angle, that there are moments which make it look like it is delivering the standard message we've all heard a million times.
I think we may have to briefly touch on what happens at the end. Otherwise, talking about what the chef is trying to do won't make sense.
Yeah, I let me try and get around it. I'll see if I can avoid talking about the ending for the moment, because there are elements that look like they are the message. So we do have a bit of a weak lad, you know. Nicholas Hoult is not, even though he's successful enough to pay
$2,400.
Yeah.
For two tickets.
Yeah, $2,500 actually, $2,500 for this. And we learn out he's paying even more for something bit. We'll get into it. He's quite beta. He's quite led around. She bosses him around. She doesn't really respect him. You know, so he does feel a bit weak, a bit soy. She is giving off a little bit of girl boss vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that ever. I think the girl boss is a little bit unironic. That, you know, she does have to be unfazed by everything, and she doesn't really get a moment of the kind of balance I would like of making a bit of an awkward, obvious mistake where Tyler could show some competence and we could appreciate that.
There are times when she doesn't know, she doesn't get what they're being served or doesn't appreciate something that's going on. But it's not like he gets to show competence or prowess in correcting her. Whenever he's correcting her, it's shown to be him being kind of a pretty little pedant, rather than him essentially, you know, as you say, they could have had something like, you know, she makes a faux pas, she makes several faux pas during the course of the film, and they could have very easily had him just, you know, in quite a Chad way, so go, no, we don't do that. No, that's not how we, you know, that's not how we do things, or I wouldn't have done that, or, you know, some kind of correction that allows you to see him as a little bit masculine in some way. And instead, even though she's making other people feel awkward and uncomfortable and she's affecting the atmosphere for everyone else, which I would say is the peak of bad manners. I sounded so posh. Even though she's kind of ruining the mood for everyone. It's even when she's corrected, you somehow think, oh, you're somehow the film gives you the impression that she's in the right and that how dare he want her to appreciate an experience that's important to him.
Yeah, they do something interesting with him. So he is not just weak and pathetic, political aesthetic. He is there. There's a reason he has a weird focus, and they do something interesting, but you can see how it looks like the classic dynamic we get with the message. But then I'll throw in like a counterpoint. We have our three chaps on the right there. They are the stockbrokers. They are the guys who've been caught out for a bit of a scam. And to anyone coming in a bit late, we are going quite spoilery on the menu here. I hope that does not bother you. I don't think it'll ruin the film.
No.
But if you want to be completely unspoiled, we will understand if you want to come back and watch it later. But so the three guys at the back there, two of them chinking their wine glasses. These are like stock the message hate characters, right?
Yeah.
They are stockbrokers, they're bankers. You're allowed to hate them, but look at them. Wouldn't they all be white guys if this were the message?
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. So it's a little thing like that made me say, no, this isn't the message. Even and your woman in the back on the left with the soy Matt Walsh whispering to her, and I couldn't stop thinking about Matt Walsh the whole time. Anytime this guy was on screen, I was thinking Matt Walsh, and I couldn't stop it.
I'm glad you didn't mention that to me, because that would have changed my viewing of the film. I can't decide if I love or hate his jacket. Fez, tell me what I should think about his jacket.
I was down for it. I liked it. So she's got the pink hair. You would think, okay, she's got the Admiral Holdo hair. She's going to be an absolute bouse. And no, she gets wrecked. She gets ruined. So, okay, it looks like people have been told by Mauler already. Okay, cool. So there was that. And also, so that's going against the message. And then I suppose there's Ralph Fiennes himself. Now, I think if it were the message, he'd be the big, screaming, angry guy.
He'd be Gordon Ramsay.
He would be Gordon. Now, he does throw a reference to Gordon Ramsay. He says, he calls someone a donkey, which was that's Gordon Ramsay, right?
No, I know what it would be if it was the message, because we're supposed to be on his side.
Mm-hmm.
The film kind of wants us to be on his side. He invites Anya Taylor-Joy into the us versus the them.
Yeah.
And as the film, she's our view into the film. So she is our eyes, she is us in the film. We are supposed to think of ourselves as amongst the class of people who give, not the class of people who take. We're not supposed to side with the diners. We're supposed to side with the servers, including Ralph Fiennes. So if the film was truly, truly going with the modern Netflix message, not just the sort of feminist message, but the full glorious cultural revolutionary message, Ralph Fiennes would be played by either a black man or a black woman.
True. But he's Ralph Fiennes. He's the guy you would traditionally tear down. And
he is literally Voldemort.
They criticize him, but he also has extreme strengths. And I absolutely love the way he played it. He wasn't Gordon Ramsay. He had this delicacy that he was showing he needed approval.
His eyes were amazing throughout.
He had vulnerability. This is maybe me being pretentious, but he really reminded me of Anthony Perkins in Psycho, and especially Psycho 2, where Anthony Perkins brings so much more vulnerability into the character of Norman.
I just couldn't tear myself away from looking at his eyes. Just, even his facial expression wouldn't seem to change, but his eyes were just radiating kind of sorrow.
It's an absolutely amazing performance. It is. I don't think anyone is really one-dimensional here. The only ones who are really underdeveloped, I would say, are sort of the political couple, the older ones at the back.
Yes.
Who aren't particularly interesting. They get a little bit of stuff, but they're relatively underdeveloped. I'll also say we have a judgment on the blazer. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair, Fez. Yeah. Soy Matt Walsh gets away with it.
Well done, that lad.
Yeah.
I might get a jacket like that.
Now, the thing that does complicate it, the massive bit of bait, and at this point I think we probably will have to go into discussion of the ending, the big reveal, what's been going on the whole time, dun dun dun, is he does quote Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh yes, so he does.
And that threw me off, because I thought at that point that was god darn it, you were doing so well, why'd you have to do it? We both sort of shook our fists up at the sky then. But so he talks about, what is the exact line? It's the oppressed cannot ask freedom from the oppressor. They have to take it.
Yes.
And that line is absolute message bait. if I were really cynical, I'd say throwing a line like that helps you get funding for your movie.
Yeah, if it's part of your pitch deck.
But I don't believe he's there to be 100% perceived as right. He's a character with a strong perspective that has its flaws. And the other reason he he uses that quote is to give Anya Taylor-Joy's character the big clue of what she needs to do to survive.
Mm.
Now, is it slightly clumsy? Yes. Does it make it very easy to misinterpret that? Yes, massively. We were talking about that for a long time, be like, why did he do that?
Mm.
So it wasn't helpful. It accomplished a couple of things, but it does easily help you misinterpret this movie, which
Or
is a real
interpret it in
shame.
one way.
Yeah,
I
I
would say,
suppose.
speaking like an English student here, I would say it's not so much misinterpreting the movie as taking different things from it. I'd say this isn't a film from which there is a wrong interpretation necessarily,
Yeah.
because there's a lot in there that you can pull out into kind of coherent understandings of it.
Mm.
John Gorris not eat people. That's the funny twist.
That's what we were expecting the whole time. We were so sure it was going to be that. I suppose at this point we should probably talk about what we really struggle to avoid talking about what he actually is planning and what's actually going on. The big reveal of what the menu is about and why he is doing what he's doing.
Yes, and I think, to be honest, that was something we didn't really discuss after the film, and I don't know that I have a clear... I could necessarily tell you exactly what he's doing, other than he... like... Basically, the end of the film, the final dessert is deconstructed s'mores. So, you know, marshmallow, biscuits and chocolate. And the s'mores in question are the guests at the restaurant and all the serving staff, and he blows them up. So they all die apart from Anya Taylor-Joy, who escapes because she understands that she needs to take freedom from the oppressors rather than ask for it. Because she's a plucky little sex worker. So that's a fun revelation. And it's interesting that she's the person we're asked to root for most in the film. That
is one of my massive areas of annoyance with the film. Even though I absolutely love the scene where Ralph Fiennes, and I'll probably just refer to him as Ralph Fiennes constantly, even character name Slowick, I think. Slowick, yeah. I'll try and say it, but most likely I'm going to say Ralph Fiennes. There's a scene where they have a little bonding moment in the office because she is clearly not like the rest of the clientele at all. And he recognizes it, so that's why he has to say, look, are you the givers or the takers? Are you the ones who serve or the ones who ask to be served? And he just equates them, that it's their job. So where she is a high-end escort and he's a chef, he does a thing where basically they're both prostituting themselves. In a way, yes, but in another way, you would expect some pushback on that fairly tasteless comparison.
Yeah, I mean, just to get real and gritty and possibly a bit unfamily friendly or family hostile for a second or two, I think there's an interesting trend in a lot of culture at the moment, and has been for a while, to sanitize sex work, even by calling it sex work rather than prostitution. And I think the image that we're presented with to help with this sanitize... I'm taking us on a complete tangent, but it's suddenly a thing that I've discovered.
Oh, rock on.
I've noticed and it bothers me. It's the whore with a heart of gold trope, but it's also that it's an incredibly glamorized thing. That the sex workers you see in a lot of popular culture are in the kind of Belle de Jour archetype. They are intelligent, privileged women who sometimes essentially enter sex work because they're faced with hard economic choices, and the decision to get a job that they find demeaning or to earn a lot of money doing not very much is more appealing. And both of us at one time or another have encountered people who are actually in that trade, and it is very, very far from that reality. But it is interesting that this is getting pushed as a potential route, and that it's being presented as an option. I feel like it's part of the kind of pod life trend. And that, yeah, I mean, it's things like, I think it was the University of Bristol had the Union of Sex Workers at their Freshers' Fair encouraging female students to think of it as another option for paying back their student loans and that kind of thing. I think it's all part of the slippery slope. So it's sorry, that took me on a rant.
Grim. No, it was so grim. It's I really dislike that thing of you trying to destigmatize it, present it as glamorous, present it as just okay, you know.
It's just another. It's just work.
Yeah, you know, American Psycho portrayed it very well. I thought they did a very good job of capturing the sort of two markets you get in the oldest profession, and then unapologetically showing it. Well, even then they kind of censored it, but you were you definitely could not avoid thinking of how very much Patrick Bateman brutalized the women he had hired. So yeah, that was a bit that I found incredibly distasteful.
Yes, sorry, that was your political rant for the evening.
Yeah,
Back to films.
We're all allowed. I think chat's on board there, hopefully. You know, so I didn't like that.
I bring you ancient Greek myths and 1980s feminism.
Oof. I'm only just realizing in this poster how badly shooped it is.
Oh gosh, yes.
You look at it. Chat, have you noticed it? How really badly shooped everyone is? Like, this is some shoddy masking here. Fez remembers American Psycho very well.
I'm broken.
Yeah.
I've also, looking at the photoshooting, one thing that's striking me is if you look at the two stockbrokers on the far right of the image, appropriately enough, if you look at where the chap in the hoodie and the jacket's elbow ends, it sort of looks like the chap behind him isn't really there, that like his shirt and trousers are part of the background. I'm getting this sort of weird optical illusion where it doesn't look like it quite connects, which has been blowing my mind for the last 20 minutes.
I wish I hadn't seen that. Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm fixated. I'm also like John Leguizamo was looking really badly shooped in for me.
I mean, he also doesn't look like himself.
I'm going to say I'm really happy we're seeing a lot more John Leguizamo. We saw him in Violent Night, the Santa Claus horror movie.
He was having a great time.
He was brilliant in that. He was just having so much fun. That was great.
You're still proper horror Thulu, by the way.
Am I?
Yes.
What do you reckon I should be for this?
Horror d'oeuvres. Proper horror d'oeuvres.
Proper hors d'oeuvres.
Proper horror d'oeuvres.
Horror d'oeuvres.
Maybe not.
I don't know if I'll manage to type that out here because it'll be loud. People will hear the typing. So just imagine it's proper horror d'oeuvres, as I've horror derped by not changing it. Way indeed. Okay, we went on some tangents here. What's actually going on here? What's Slowick's thing? Well, he's brought all these people to the island for the exclusive dining experience because basically they have ruined cooking for him. He's absolutely disenchanted. He's disenchanted. He feels overlooked. He feels he's lost the love for cooking. He's sick of the people that he's catering to. He's moved up in the world and he's now this top level auteur creative chef, and only the worst kind of people can afford him. And he knows from the start that he's dedicated to his art. He's basically an elitist in cooking. He's taken it to the highest end. He's unapologetically elitist for doing things right. That will get complicated a bit later, but don't worry too much. And he wants to reclaim that love. So he's going to kill all of them. And he and his team are going to go out in a blaze of glory. They are...
Literally.
Literally. They are part of it. Because this is high-end cooking. it's not just about what you eat. It's about the entire range of sensations. As he explicitly says, it's about emotions. So his final sacrifice is literally part of the meal.
Mm.
And that's his plan, to take them all out that way. Now, this is why him quoting Martin Luther King Jr. is a little bit weird. He's not really oppressed by them.
Mm.
And it's really hard to justify that, except for he needed to give Anya Taylor-Joy the clue for how she survives.
Yes.
But in his perspective, I wouldn't say he should feel oppressed. He should feel sort of trapped by success.
Mm.
And he's just got this. What's really upsetting him is just the people he's serving to. So what triggers the guy is that, say, the rich couple, the political couple at the end, they've visited his restaurant 11 times and they don't care what he serves.
Yeah.
They're only going for the status. That he challenges them, name a single dish I served you, and they can't do it.
I mean, thinking realistically, sort of taking a step out of the film for a second, possibly part of the reason they go there frequently is because it's the only place they can get good service anymore.
Oh dear. Come on, Just Eats is around. Come on, man. What are you talking about?
It is one of those things where you go to even if it's, as Fez called it, a very pretentious, I can't remember the words you used, Fez, but is it a pretentious type place like this? The level of just the experience, someone else said the experience is more pleasant than Nando's.
Yeah.
So they might just be going there because they like a waiter who maybe notices when they need some more wine.
Yeah. The stockbrokers are there because they just want to show off. They just have more money than they care about, and they're doing it for the bragging rights as well. The critic is there because this is where we get into the harder interpretation. The critic deserves to die and was invited because she's engaging with the food insincerely. She is writing her critiques as a kind of Simon Cowell character. She's trying to take people down. She's not engaging honestly with the food. She has to have a snippy angle. And that's why he targets her. We get little signs of this, like when people are getting the tacos that have a picture lasered onto them that basically are indicators of their sin. Hers is restaurants that closed thanks to her reviews. Is that making sense?
Yes, I was just getting distracted for a second and trying to work out if there were potentially 7 sins.
I saw a comparison saying yes. I wasn't so sure of it myself. Someone did make the analysis. If you work on that, you think about it. So she's not engaging with it because she's basically just doing it out of spite. Tyler, on the other hand, Tyler's extremely enthusiastic, but he's also not engaging with it honestly either. He's breaking it down. He's looking at a technical level. He's wanting it to be something that he captures. He wants to be on the inside.
He wants to be able to show that he's engaged it.
I mean, we did struggle with this. We did struggle with trying to work out why did he get taken out when he was so sincere? That seemed like a bit of a reach. And I came down to it, the fact that he was trying to, and now this is going to be really important to our analysis. I believe the reason Tyler was taken out was because he's also not engaging with the food as an experience. He's trying to see the technical side of it. He's trying to understand everything from a fanboy perspective.
Yes, he's not criticizing it. Like, you get the impression that Ralph Fiennes, I think I've just come to this realization. You get the impression that Ralph Fiennes could serve him, or Ralph Fiennes' character could serve him dog mess on a lettuce leaf. And he'd say, "Oh, chef, that's amazing. That's extraordinary. I'm delighted. What a wonderful thing to eat."
You are so on the money there. You are absolutely on the money. And we've got a big clue, 2 big clues for that. He eats everything. He just wolfs it down, and he just praises it regardless. He's got basically no critique.
Yeah.
He's just a slavish fanboy who doesn't know what the good food is. He's just there to love it, basically, which feels hard to hate him for. But
Yeah. I mean, I felt a lot of fondness for him because I could see a lot of that passion in the way that, you and I talk about films, for example. It's the enthusiasm, it's the what a delight. I suppose at least we have the capacity to be critical of Plan 9 from Outer Space looking at you.
This is one of the really interesting, because this is completely anti the message. Tyler just isn't on the level of the chef, and he thinks he is. Like, the chef is kicking him out because he's a basic noob. He's a normie.
Dr. Prepper's nailing it. He worships the chef, but he doesn't really appreciate what he does. He loves the idea of it, but he has no standards.
Dr. Prepper, you have nailed it. You have absolutely nailed it. That is it. That is it exactly. There's a bit where, in the dish Man's Folly, where the chef basically is punished for his own crimes in a Me Too sort of way that they don't really make too much of, I think.
Was there even any food for that, or was it just...
Well, that's the thing. It's part of the emotion, the experience, and the sensation was the dish. Like, this is in high concept food. That's it. You can literally not be served food. You could you could have a sound with it, or rather, you'd have something that you can imbibe or ingest, but it would have to be in the context of like hearing a sound. But I've seen stuff where you had colors, just like light on the plate.
Oh, so you can't see what it is you're eating. There's a restaurant in London where it's entirely in the dark and all the waiters are blind.
Bilbo has got it as well. Trucks in the presence of tens. Exactly. Tyler's a truck.
Could you explain the language for those of us not in the inner circle?
So for people who that sounds like a weird statement for, basically it's Tyler is not on the elite level, but he is acting as if he is. He's not able to appreciate it, which means he isn't able to engage fully and treat the food with the respect it deserves by dint of it being so high level. So in Man's Folly, the point of it is that all the men have to run off and hide, which leads to one of my favorite images in the whole darn film.
Didn't you say you dreamt about her?
I did dream about her. Look at her. She's amazing. There's a chicken. I loved it.
It's a shame you couldn't get a screenshot of her lovely face.
I know, but I wanted the dessert with soy Matt Walsh there.
That was my favourite moment in the film, to be honest, was just someone reaching through the door of the hen coop and going, your prize for being the last to be caught.
Yeah. It had a bit of a feel of Funny Games to me, but that I couldn't make that fit the rest of the film, but it's just had a feel of Funny Games. Anyway, the men are meant to run off and hide and attempt to escape. They're pursued by the chefs. It's pretty cool. They don't overplay it. A weaker film would have made another 4 minutes out of that sequence and tried to up the horror in a way that would feel really kind of out of touch with the rest of the film. This didn't do that. But anyway, Tyler doesn't run.
No.
He's just wanting to stay by the chef, so he cannot have the experience that he's meant to have.
Yeah.
Now, this is a weakness of the film because later Slowick gives a completely different reason for why Tyler is being killed. If that is passing you by, I can explain.
Yes, I've forgotten the reason he gives.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, is it because he's shy?
No. The reason that Slowick gives is that he brought Margot instead of the original person who's meant to come. And he says that because he's been talking with Tyler for months now, Tyler actually knows from the outset that everyone's going to die, and he still comes along anyway. Now, I thought that was actually kind of a weak part of the film. I didn't like that. I didn't like that Slowick would just tell him he's going to die.
Yes, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. So that was weak for me. And I thought the real reason is just that Tyler's the kind of guy who brings it down. He doesn't get it. And he thinks he does. he thinks he can be the chef.
Yeah.
And
he
that's
has
why
all
he
the
has to go.
gadgets, and he you see at the start of when they first arrive in the restaurant, he sort of potters over to the kitchen to have a look at what they're doing and asks about, oh, did you make that with a Paco jet or something? Or references various different high spec tools that they have, and is then very proud of the fact that A, he recognized it, and B, he has one himself. So he's I've forgotten where I was going with that, other than I found it rather endearing.
Yeah, it is kind of sweet. It is kind of sweet, but yeah, it's not getting it. So this is just, the man is not the elite level. Like, this is why I love it. It's unashamedly elitist, which really does not fit with this being called The Message. That said, there is a cool reading of this. I think the Enriab has picked up on it, and I think someone else did as well. There's a moment where Slowick, Ralph Fiennes' character, the chef, loses his cool in a massive way over an entitled guy, basically his financial backer, demanding substitutions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think, yes.
Basically, I'm one of the best chefs in the world. How dare you ask me to swap something out? Everything is planned. But what Tyler's done is effectively bring a substitution.
Yes.
And that's why Chef can't stand it.
Yes, that's true. That's a nice take on that, I would say.
So it is where I do find that is a fault in the writing. That the given reason really doesn't fit the reason that makes sense.
Yes.
Or it's just kind of handy that Tyler has this other aspect that means he should die as well, that he deserves it. But it's just something that struck me as a little bit weak. There's another moment that we discussed as well where it was a time that Slowick basically wants to get a cheap joke in, and it's for where is it? It's this character. Let me get her up quickly. So it's the woman next to John Leguizamo. Now she's an assistant / mistress to his film star character.
To some extent, she's Weinsteining her way through the career ladder.
She kind of is. She kind of is. Now, Slowick's reason for killing Leguizamo is ultimately kind of weak. That he made a film that Slowick didn't like. Now, it's a little deeper than that. It's a little deeper.
There's a nice element of, it was my first time off in months, the afternoon all to myself, and I went to see this film by myself, to relax, and it was rubbish. And there's an element, I think, I'm going to dig into that for a second, because I think there's an element where it's not so much about just I'm killing you because your film was crap. It's digging into that theme of the parasites of society, the sort of takers of society versus the givers, the service industry side of things. There's a sense of the essentially people in the service industry or in his world are really working so hard. Their lives are very kind of exhausting and draining. They don't get the same time to themselves because they have to be kind of available for the rest of us, and that then for their precious time off to be wasted on absolute dross is a sort of understandable or kind of reasonable thing to be frustrated by, I guess, or annoyed by.
It is a lot more defensible. It feels like a cheap joke, but as you say, there's a bit more to it. If we look at it as like, he's an elitist, and I'm going to keep calling him that to make me like the movie even more.
Someone just said the frustration is that he, as an actor or director, doesn't appear to take pride in his work. That he's happy to take part in anything for the cash.
Yeah, he pushed out crap, basically.
And
he pushed out a low quality product.
You can see that being kind of backed up earlier on in the film. Foreshadowed. There we go. Thank you. Where Leguizamo and the mistress assistant are sort of sat, and they're clearly planning to pitch a kind of travel food show to various networks. and she clearly, because she's focusing on her career and the sort of potential success of it, wants to practice the pitch and wants him to think about, how is he going to, pitch this series to these execs that they're meeting. And he goes off on a sort of very cliched spiel about, well, actually, you'll have a close-up of me sort of chewing something and then looking into the distance, and then I'll spout off some BS about whatever, and then the next shot is me, and he rattles off all the kind of travel food show cliches that we all know. And it's a clear sort of evidence of he's not thinking about it, he doesn't care about it. It's kind of, he sort of knows or expects that he'll get given the show, and that he doesn't need to worry too much about the details or the quality or producing anything particularly profound.
Yeah.
Which then gets sort of followed up later on, where it's just like, yeah, you played a character in a film and you clearly didn't care about it. There was no kind of quality there.
I think you've talked me round. I actually now really like this reason. It's fine. Yeah, this is good. This is a guy who's absolutely burnt out, has almost no spare time because he's so focused on his craft.
Yeah.
Goes to see someone else's craft, and the person's just shoved out, the equivalent of Vin Diesel's daddy. No, wait, The Nanny. Vin Diesel was in The Nanny. That was his, not Daddy Daycare. That was
it
someone else.
Schwarzenegger in Daddy Daycare?
No, Schwarzenegger was in Kindergarten Cop, which also starred Miko Hughes of Pet Sematary and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's
I hope
right.
all those men actually spent time with their actual children as well.
Madam.
Sorry.
Okay, moving away from old. Okay, I just kind of wanted to see if chat would appreciate references to Kindergarten Cop.
Give it time for it to come through on the delay.
Anyway, okay, so we've got actually a very character-based justification for John Leguizamo's character to be offed. His assistant, I think that was a bit more in the realm of a cheap joke.
Yeah, someone mentioned earlier finding it a bit weak about the fact that you tell the cheap shot and then...
Okay, so the cheap shot is... Oh, maybe it was the pacifier. It might have been the pacifier, Bilbo. Thank you very much. But I did watch that movie on a flight and I did not have good time. What?
Okay.
It's not the... Anyway, moving on. So the thing with the assistant is that she says, what about me? And Slowick says, you went to university, basically. Basically, she went to an elite university, Brown's, and he asks her, do you have a student loan? She says, no. Basically, she had all the money. She's loaded, her parents paid for it or whatever. And so he just says, yeah, you're dying.
Yep.
So that felt a bit more a cheap shot. Now, he's a guy who's obviously, from what we see, he's worked his way up. He's done the graft.
Yeah.
But it did feel like a bit of a cheap shot at a popular target. And one of the reasons I would say that is the writers. The writers are a guy called Seth, I think, Rice. Rice.
I've got one thing that might actually make you in favour of his rationale for killing the assistant. Emma Watson went to Brown.
Did she?
She didn't have student loans.
Ooh-wee. Anyway.
So would you suddenly, it seems a lot more justifiable. That wasn't a death threat.
2 for 2. All right. So Seth Rice and Will Tracy are both writers for most of their time on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Oh dear. Which
I think explains some of the, that sort of cheap popular stuff. But then again, we've got loads of stuff in here that isn't that. That isn't the sort of cheap John Oliver snark, which this easily could have been.
Yes.
And I'm so glad it isn't. Incidentally, one of the things I found out when looking this up, John Leguizamo's character, who's basically a washed-up actor, he based him on Steven Seagal.
Harsh. But then again, I don't think I've knowingly seen a Steven Seagal film, so I think I definitely missed the action schlock of the 80s.
Yeah.
Was that when Steven Seagal was big?
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. That was the key period for it. But Leguizamo worked with Seagal on, I think, Executive Decision and did not have a good time. And for reference, and I will risk spoiling, I think 1985's executive decision, I could be wrong. Seagal is wiped out about 30 minutes into that movie. So just think how much of a dick Seagal must have been if Leguizamo hates him that much if he was only on set for about 2 days. You know, like there's like 40 years later, Leguizamo is still mad.
Don't talk to me about Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Like that friend of ours always tells anecdotes from 30 years ago.
Indeed. You know, having said that, I did quite like Under Siege. I don't know if Under Siege 2 holds up, but Katherine Heigl was in it. To randomly reference things. Anyway.
Again, I was probably about 3 when that came out.
Oh, you didn't have exposure to Blockbuster.
I did briefly. I mainly liked putting videos in the letterbox thing. That was the highlight of my weekend.
Oh,
I was a very easily satisfied 9-year-old. Give me a box and a thing to put things in the box, and I'll be happy all day.
Everyone liked that. So we've talked about his motivation here. Basically, he feels like these type of people have ruined it. He and his team want to die as part of a dedication to the craft. They want to die as a sign of perfection. We could go into the thing of how Margot doesn't die, but I kind of want to take us on a detour. What's your preference?
I'll happily be detoured. Detour away.
Okay. So from very early on when I was watching this, I started seeing this film a particular way. I saw it as an analogy that really, really worked for me. They're talking about haute cuisine, like the real high-end gastronomy, and how what you're trying to do is not just make something that people ingest, but you try and give someone an experience. You try and evoke emotions, which is why they can serve dishes that don't even have food in them, like The Mess or Men's Folly. Like, they're trying to create a perfect experience, and they are completely dedicated to it, to the point of basically destroying themselves, working ridiculous hours, all to try and deliver the most perfect product. And all I could think of when they were doing this was that they were talking about filmmaking.
Love my metaphor. Cinemas.
Well, this is how I saw it. This reminded me very much of how Inception is a very obvious metaphor for filmmaking. Except Inception is talking about trying to get an idea into people and trying to make people think a certain way. This is talking about trying to get people to feel a certain way. And I could see this then as just a director, a filmmaker, absolutely frustrated with audiences who don't appreciate them, who aren't seeing all the effort that goes into it, and frankly want a little bit of revenge on them.
Can we have a look at, did you get a screen cap of the menu?
I did get a screen cap of the menu. It's not the clearest, but it should help.
Because I'm just wondering if we can right. So they've got amuse-bouche, the island, breadless bread plate, memory, the mess, man's folly. I think there was the ham. So the next thing after that was the s'mores at the end, wasn't it? Dessert, I think, after men's folly.
Yeah, s'mores at the end. They showed us this right at the very end as if to remind us and say, hey, have you worked out the theme? But then I thought, well, they pretty much told us everything.
Yeah, because I was just looking at it wondering whether there's anything we could kind of pull out about filmmaking, I suppose, from the dishes, but that might be too much.
Oh, I can give it a go.
All right.
So we start off with an amuse-bouche, which is a faux oyster. So you're going for something, but it's not the real thing, right? You think you're here for one experience. You're actually going for another experience, right? The island is where they actually go. That's simple enough. The breadless bread plate is really interesting because that's the point where he insults them. And Margot is the only person to pick up on this. Now, the breadless bread plate is where he serves them what should be bread with dips, but he says bread is for the average person. You aren't the average person. So he flatters them, but also takes away what they think they want, what they expect, what they need. He's not going to give them bread. So he gives them something crucially missing what should be there. Like, they don't deserve it, because really they're here for other things. They're here to fangirl out, or to take a little snipe in a review, or just to boast that you went to Hawthorne, his exclusive restaurant.
Yeah.
Memory is a painful memory for him. This is tied into truth. So with this, he's reminiscing back on and sort of confirming that he's on the course. I know this is a weak one. I don't have a solid one there. And that leads him into a much more painful thing, a mess of how he's set on the path to death and he just can't avoid it. He is killing himself for them. And then even though there's that quick respite, man's folly, is about how he can't escape. They're sent out, but they cannot escape. They're brought back. So showing like, this is inevitable. This is the only way I can go for it. And then ending in s'mores, just the immolation. But it's a sweet ending. I feel like I
But how would you
garbled
tie that
that a
to
tiny
film?
bit.
How would you tie that to film? The metaphor of filming. Or do you want to go back to that?
Oh, the meta. Oh, sorry. I just thought you meant that.
No, sorry. I meant how would you apply that menu to filmmaking?
I think I wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't think it. The metaphor doesn't need to go all the way into every aspect of it. That's where you get into sort of Jordan Peele territory. We don't want to do that. It's more of the thing of when he's talking about creating an experience and how much they suffer.
I just think it would be a bit rude of them to say at the start of the film, pay attention to the sort of the details like this, because that'll help you understand the theme, that whatever it is that quote is at the start, and then for them to show us the menu at the end, and for it to have nothing to do with the kind of metaphorical structure of the film. I think that would be a bit rude.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe we expected it to be a little too complex on that level, maybe, because they said, hey, they basically had Tyler say to the audience, hey, audience, you've got to pay attention because there's going to be a theme, right? Work it out.
Themes are coming.
You're going to have to use your brain. And then ultimately, so it kind of tells you what his theme is, which is, you people have ruined my life.
Yeah.
You don't appreciate my art, so I'm going to destroy myself and my art. He kind of does spell it out for you. And if someone wanted to say that made the film a little bit weaker, I'm not going to argue, really. I just want to point out here, I've noticed, sorry I didn't notice this earlier. I've just seen that the NREAB has gifted a couple of memberships out to people. So I noticed some new people get the memberships there, and I thought, oh, lovely. So I hope you enjoyed them. I think I saw T and Bilbo Balboa picked up those memberships. So I hope you enjoy checking out the exclusive member content. And a massive thank you to the NREAB. You're an absolute star, sir. Thank you so much. I'm assuming, sir. Yes. Sorry.
Yes, she did just assume your gender.
I did.
To bring back a tired joke from 2016.
Oh, dear. If someone wanted to say, I'm taking a burger off because they spelled out the message at the end, I wouldn't argue too much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But that interpretation of the menu as being about filmmaking was something I couldn't shake off, and I really liked it. I really liked seeing it that way. Oh, and Marina as well. Excellent. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you very much, the NREAB, as well, for Marina. Well done. And Marina, I hope you enjoy the exclusive content as well. Fantastic stuff.
There are so many Easter eggs in the things that she puts out.
Yeah, this is going to be really. I hope you go back and you look at the Easter egg posts and you're like, my goodness, that's what that was.
I mean, my main association with the Easter eggs in your videos is that they often involve trick shots that I have to balance on furniture to try and help you get. But
Yes. I do like making you do all the trick shots. That is fun. That does delight me.
I think the best was the one where I had to try and do a smooth zoom in towards you while you balanced 2 chickens on your shoulders.
Oh gosh, that was amazing.
Can't believe Bianca and Miss Cracker let us get away with that.
Yeah, we are working towards the laserized super nanny as well. We need that. We need more emotes, absolutely. I think I'll get busy and create them. But back to the film. Back to the film. We talked about that reading. We talked about the setup here. Was there any? Did you want to maybe? Should we talk about how Margot survives, or were there other bits before we get onto that? Because I feel that sort of.
There's Tyler's death.
Let's go for. Tell you what, I would love to talk about a detail about the powerful political couple. If you want to talk about Tyler. Should we go for that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I have to say about Tyler's death.
Let me get a screen cap up for it because I do have one.
I mean, I just mainly felt rather sorry for him, kind of throughout.
I am struggling to find it.
Do you want to do your thing on the other screen first?
I might actually.
Yeah, go on.
Give us a moment, folks. A fair few of these. I think I know where it is here as well. That's what makes it so awkward.
70 Sue, we are a bit like hobbits. That is, hobbits are our spirit animal, really. And to be fair, if you go back to some of Horrorshow's work from 2020, that's when you'll see a lot of chickens present, because obviously we were not allowed to leave the house because of the extremely dangerous situation going on in the world. So we had to entertain ourselves, mainly with chickens and filmmaking. So yes, I like the Henry saying need behind the scenes footage, also director and crew commentary on previous videos. It'll mainly be the cockerel kicking off and Gatsby. But
I would actually love to do that if I maybe just like set a camera so people can see the weird setup I have when I actually film stuff.
Yeah.
I could go for it. Actually, that might. You know what? I wish we had footage of us when we did a spinning shot, which had to keep me in the center, and we filmed it by strapping a plank to a Lazy Susan, and then we duct taped my phone onto the plank. Do you remember?
I think that was one of those ones where the audio caught me expressing how much I didn't enjoy spending the afternoon helping you get various trick shots, and I just listened to it back and I was like, yeah, I sound like a nagging harpy shrew wife, but at the same time it's entirely justified because we've spent an hour and a half doing this stupid thing and I don't know why.
Yes.
Oh
yes. Dear.
So anyway, back to Tyler. Chickens do have excellent head stability. I'm really struggling to talk about Tyler. I had a lot of affection for Nicholas Holt's character. I think the trouble with the film was they made him a bit too endearing, and then suddenly were like, oh no, wait, we need to make him a dick. So they had a couple of moments where, like, for example, he kind of clicked at Margot to shut her up, or was sort of quite rude and abrasive with her when he thought that, you know, his sort of fanboying of the chef was starting to go wrong around the edges because obviously the evening wasn't going the way that he assumed it would, although he'd been told that they were all going to die anyway, so you'd think he would have known that. But anyway, let's gloss over that plot hole. He's a bit rude. He's pretty rude to Margot a few times throughout the film. But at the same time, I couldn't help but like his enthusiasm and his hype, even if he is a complete yes man and is sort of engaging with the food uncritically. It's rare to find that kind of uncynical excitement and delight in anything in today's world, particularly in sort of film.
Yeah.
And so I found it actually really quite devastating, this way. So what happens is, because he's sort of talking over the chef and talking over Margot to try and explain something about one of the courses they've just been served. He's mansplaining the experience to her, and chef interrupts him and essentially says, Tyler, well, why don't we, since you know so much about it, why don't you cook for me? Show me what you can do. He can't do it. He's an enthusiast. He likes the fancy food. He's got the wealth clearly to enjoy going to these kinds of fancy and pretentious restaurants. But when it comes to actually being able to produce the food himself and cook it himself, he doesn't have the capability. And it was just, so he sort of tries to do this sort of lamb and leek thing, and it's just a disaster. And then chef goes up to him and just whispers something in his ear, and we never hear what it is that he says to Tyler. But Tyler then just walks away very slowly, goes around the corner, and you later see, just as someone else is leaving a room, just in the background, she sort of stops and looks in and sees that he has taken himself off the mortal coil with a belt and some gravity.
Yes, he's self-unalived.
Yes. And it's, I honestly found that quite devastating. I think partly because I felt a fondness for him, that even the moments when they're like, oh wait, we're supposed to make him unlikable, quick, let's make him unlikable. That didn't really work. They hadn't, if he'd been just an unpleasant character all the way along, it would have been a lot easier to find a certain amount of humor and justification in his death. But I don't know, because I liked the enthusiasm and I liked the kind of puppyish excitement, I just found it really sad and heartbreaking. I also don't like, it's like that gallbladder cartoon all over again. I don't like it when people try a thing and then get rejected.
I'll just point it quickly. Slim, have a good night. I saw you say you're dropping off there, so have a good night. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, back to you, Tyler. He's too endearing. I know the thing is, we get the revelation that he's brought Margot along. He's hired her to come along with him, even though he knows she's going to die, because frankly, he would rather do that than miss out on the chance to dine at Hawthorne. I can't hate him.
No.
And in fact, in a way, I think Slowick should kind of respect that. If he's all about, I have basically destroyed everything so I can be the best here, I've got that dedication. Is Tyler not showing ridiculous dedication by doing that? I don't know. Maybe it's controversial. I just sort of think Slowick might respect that. But in a way, he also wants to destroy Tyler for even deigning to think that he's on the same level. But Nicholas Hoult here, he just, he was absolutely captivating. He wasn't hogging the screen. He wasn't overacting it. He was just imbuing everything with lots of character.
He's just thoroughly, I've known chaps like that.
Yeah. I mean, best Nicholas Hoult performance here. Best one I've ever seen him do. I nearly forgot something I was going to say that I thought was kind of interesting and ironic. This is a film about destroying yourself for the art and how that's unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
That message is unapologetically rammed home, right? So I am not crazy for seeing that.
No.
Now, Margot, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, is the only one to get out of this. I mentioned this when we were watching this. She gets many long loving shots, close-ups of her face. She's walking by. And we were commenting, she's young and she's already had surgery. She has gone quite a way to literally have herself carved up for the art. Does it seem a little ironic for her to be in this? I'm not intending that as an attack. I'm not intending that as a dig. I just thought it was an unintentional irony there. Like, is she someone who can deliver the message about you shouldn't destroy yourself for art?
I mean, I think she will be in about 10 years' time when she loses any natural buccal fat that's remaining, and her face would have naturally started to look like that. It's a strange and weird and upsetting phenomenon. There's, I mean, there's a whole other world of the kinds of subtle cosmetic surgeries that are happening in the kind of influencer and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of in Hollywood, basically. You know, surgeries that are relatively subtle, but are all just sort of gradually, slightly improving the way people look, so that they no longer look quite human. And I think it is very sad that it's the thing. I think I've still got the sort of 2010s feminist in me going, it's a woman's choice to do whatever she wants. But I think you're allowed to say it is sad that someone who is as naturally beautiful as Anya Taylor-Joy is, regardless, should have felt the pressure to, or should have felt on some level that carving up her face was a sensible thing to do.
Yeah. That's
Exactly,
right,
yes.
Gatsby.
You know, it is sad, and I think it's an interesting one. In some ways, possibly she is very much the right person to be part of this message in particular of destroying yourself for your art, or changing yourself for art, losing part of yourself for art, very literally.
That's maybe a better way to phrase it. I mean, again, I don't intend it as a dig at her. I think she's a great actress. Like, she's really the witch is, and Split as well.
Yeah,
which I thought was going to be a train wreck, and then I really liked.
It was an unexpected Shyamalan success.
It really was. So subtle points.
Sorry, Holy Holy is asking. Yes. So Anya Taylor-Joy is one of various young women in Hollywood recently who have had their buccal fat removed, and the buccal
fat is inside the cheeks, so the mouth is the buccal cavity. That may help you win a pub quiz one day.
So yeah, so she's had the fat removed from kind of under her cheekbones, because it tends to make people look slightly older and thinner, a more kind of sculpted face, in the same way that people just used to contour. It's mimicking it. Well, it's contouring is mimicking the thing that she's literally had done of removing the cheeks from her, the fat from her cheeks. Ironically, it's a thing that actually many trans women will get fat added into that area to try and make themselves look more feminine. Yeah.
I did not know. Goodness me.
We know a couple of people who've had cheek implants. That's where it goes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
It's quite fun that it goes. You've got actual women getting the fat of their cheeks removed, and you've got trans women getting the fat put in. Maybe they should just have some pipelines and pump them in and out.
Pipelines, oh, goodness me.
Sorry.
As if we don't have enough pipelines on the internet. Subtle points. This is one you notice. I thought we'll get the subtle points out before we go for the finale. Because this was great. This was great. You noticed it. The name of Slowick's former restaurant was Tantalus.
Yes.
And the second you hear something like this, chat, the second you hear a name like that, you got to think, okay, hang on, that's a weird name. Why on earth would they call it Tantalus? And you were straight on it.
Do you want me to ancient Greek post again?
Get ancient Greek posting. Go for it.
To be fair, I don't know as much about the myth of Tantalus as I do about others. So Tantalus is in the Greek conception of hell, Hades. There are various punishments. I'm not sure in what kind of myth they're encountered, but I think it's one where someone goes on a bit of a tour of Hades, as people tend to. So you've got people like Sisyphus constantly pushing a boulder up a hill and it rolls back down. So he's constantly pushing and pushing. Tantalus is set in front of a great feast, and he's eating and eating and eating, but he's never satisfied. So he can never be full. So it's again playing on that theme of sort of desire and hunger and need that will never be never be met.
Yeah, he can see the food, but
That's the one
he
there.
can gain no satisfaction for it. Dr. Prep, the version I saw was this, is that
Yeah.
he's tied to a tree. Because I looked it up afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not able to get it. So he can see the food and drink, but he can get no satisfaction from it. This is obviously, guys, you're intelligent. You don't need me to spell it out. Slowick naming his restaurant Tantalus for someone who can see the food but get no satisfaction from it is a lovely little touch. We appreciate it. Another one is that
I'm thinking of.
you're thinking of another one.
I think I am. Yeah.
Don't worry. Another one is that when Anya Taylor-Joy actually manages to sneak into his cottage, it looks exactly like the restaurant set. Now, is that just a cheeky production decision to save them a bunch of money? Yes, but it's also a character decision to show that his home place is just his workplace. There's nothing, he's basically hollowed out. All he is his work. That's why inside his cottage, it's just the same kitchen and dining area. Lovely touch. And one final disturbing little moment, something they didn't draw a massive amount of focus on, was the fact, was related to the powerful political couple.
Can I just interrupt briefly?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Who's the one who tries to drink and the water always disappears? In the Greek myths. Because Tantalus is, I don't know who I'm thinking of who eats and is never full. That's going to haunt me. But I'm sure
that's Homer. That's Homer Simpson in Treehouse of Horrors 4. They just bring him endless donuts and but he likes it. You're looking at me with fury, but that is in a Treehouse of Horror.
So yeah, I want to know who the person is who can never, because there's someone who's always trying to drink and they never get it, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, sorry, you were about to point out a subtle detail with the political.
Yeah, we're just kind of subtle detail posting at the moment because I'm staving off the ending. I'll give a final warning before we do the ending. But so yeah, the political couple that we see, who recognize Margot, there's a little detail. The wife says to the husband, "She looks like our Claire, doesn't she? Like our daughter, she looks like our Claire." And then that's kind of all they say. That's okay, all right. But it's not that. That's not where they recognize her from.
What she says specifically, she looks like our Claire. She has the same kind of, and she says something about like a long distance stare or something.
Yes. So way later in the film, when Anya Taylor-Joy as Margot is in the office with Slowick and they're having their kind of barriers down chat. And he asks her about her work as an escort. He asks her how she knows the guy. She says he's a client, and he, is asking what did he want? Was it something really weird? And she downplays it, just says, no, it's I've got to be careful here. He will take care of making himself happy. I hope you're with me, chat. All she has to do is watch and pretend to be his daughter. And
talk about how much she still loves him.
Yeah. And it's sort of okay.
Creepy.
It's pretty darn creepy. It's pretty darn gross. Could it have been more subtle? Maybe. But it was enough that it was really quite disturbing when you put those two bits of information together. Yeah, I like this. This is a film full of wonderful little details. Like the attention to detail in the script, the attention to detail in getting a second unit director who worked on the kind of close-up gastronomy to make the food shots authentic.
Yeah, that was lovely.
Oh, it was so good. This is what makes it work so well.
Bilbo, I think the implication is that he had previously not hired one.
Yeah, I think.
And
Yeah,
hence the daughter's faraway stare.
mm,
And because one of the things is he specifically asks Margot's character, or she recounts it as she's required to tell the politician, sort of in character as his daughter, that she forgives him and she still loves him.
mm.
Did someone bring their kids to the pub?
I know, Jay. I know. Trust me. I mean, I like to keep it family friendly anyway. You know, as you've heard me say many a time, I am the most family friendly PG stream about disembowelings and decapitations there is on YouTube. However, it's also the censorship regime is brutal on here, which is why we have to say things like self-non-aliving and speaking in euphemisms.
To be fair, talking about Wincest is probably fairly reasonable that it's advertiser unfriendly.
Yes, the Dorset option, as we could euphemistically refer to it as.
Or Norfolk.
Oh, the Norfolk option.
Leave Dorset alone.
I don't know why.
What did Dorset ever do to you?
Oh, I literally didn't plan that. I just thought I'd name a place, and my brain said Dorset, so I went for that. So as I was saying, high praise, and this one extra detail, you know, we talked about earlier, that it may seem out of place, and in fact it is a little bit clumsy, but Chef Slowick, quoting MLK, is really just a way, subtly, to give Margot the clue over how she escapes. So now we will talk about that ending. So we've talked quite, you know, extensively. There's not too much left to your imagination, but if you really want to preserve the ending and not be spoiled on that, then we will not be offended, but we'll now talk about the ending.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, so nice and dramatic. I love it. I wish I'd actually got the thing up here because, okay, where is it? I'm looking for this. Hello. Unfortunately, when I was mentioned in a thread where people were going back and forth, is this the best thing ever? Is this film absolute crap? Quite a few people mentioned the cheeseburger.
Ah, so you knew it was coming.
I knew something with a cheeseburger was coming, and I kind of wish I didn't. But anyway, it was certainly used in a much, but how it was used was nothing like I'd predicted, because as you know, I went in just thinking it's going to be cannibalism.
Yeah.
And it was not cannibalism, and I was delighted by that. What actually happens? I mean, do you want to do it, or would you like me to do it?
I'll do it.
You go.
So there's a moment where Margot's character is sort of trying to escape, or she's decided she's essentially going to join the us rather than them, so the sort of chef's side. And so he asks her to go and fetch something, and she takes herself into his cottage, his sort of private cottage, to sort of have a snoop around, basically. And in there, she gets into this sort of private room and sees sort of photos and sort of memorabilia from his past, including the picture of his former restaurant, Tantalus, and a picture of him in his very early days, and a news clipping of him in his first sort of job in a kitchen where he was just a burger chef, flipping burgers. And what I thought, speaking of the kind of minute details, what's really nice to notice is the picture of him flipping burgers is him as a young man. He's got this massive broad grin on his face, clearly happy as Larry. Then, you know, it's young chef opens, you know, new restaurant, and he looks a little bit more worn, and there's a smile, but it's a tenser smile. And then there's another news clipping about, you know, another, you know, how successful he is or his sort of new restaurant, and he's again looking more tense, less of a real smile, until finally the picture of him in front of the in front of Hawthorne, the sort of final restaurant, his sort of final stage, as it were, and he's just absolutely miserable. He's not smiling at all, which is an interesting clue as to kind of all along the way he started off cooking burgers for people who truly appreciated, which again, I suppose, plays into the class elements of the film if you want to look for that message. And then gradually he's sort of been cooking fancier and fancier food for people who appreciate and understand it less and less. Anyway, your gal Anya Taylor-Joy ends up back in the restaurant, and you've had the MLK quote, the oppressors must take freedom for themselves, essentially. And you see her sort of thinking for a second, and he's about to serve the next course, and she goes, "Wait, I don't like your food. I want to send it back." And earlier in the film, she's been told in no uncertain terms by Tyler, who is by this point dead, that you don't send food back to this chef. You just don't do that. You don't criticize him. And so it's a sort of suddenly, it's that combination of, you must take it for yourself, and yes, damn it, I am going to send this back. And everyone sort of looks at her in surprise. And the chef says, "Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can get you?" And she says, "I'd like a cheeseburger." And you can see just a real look of understanding between them, that he knows what she's seen and he knows what she's doing. And then, he asks a few questions. "Oh, do you want crinkle cut fries? What style do you want it?" And then you see this lovely shot of him, because that's the other thing, is throughout the film, you see him tasting things, but he doesn't cook. He's not doing any of the cooking. He's supervising, and everyone's absolutely terrified of him. But all the sous chefs are the ones doing the cooking. You don't see him in front of an oven getting hot and sweaty. But then for this one, you see him actually cooking it and sort of, doing a good job, and sort of presents it to her and sort of waits for her approval. And she takes one bite, and it's a real contrast with the sort of very pretentious food, particularly that bread plate without the bread.
Which she correctly identified was an insult to everyone.
Yeah. And she takes a bite and then looks up at him and goes, "I'm sorry, I wasn't as hungry as I thought I was. Could I get this to go?" And it's that understanding, she's understood what it was that he wanted, and he's understood what she's sort of doing. And so he gets the food for her in a bag and just nods to the staff who let her leave. And for various other reasons in the plot, there is now a boat on the jetty where there hadn't been before. And she legs it and gets on the boat and manages to get it going in a moment of girl boss, because God knows how you just suddenly learn to drive a boat based on no experience, because none of those dials and switches would mean anything.
Heck no.
But somehow she intuits the way to drive a boat and gets essentially just out of blast radius by the time that the s'mores explode.
Yeah, it's a clever bit of rules lawyering that she manages to play the game well. She works it. I think we appreciate it. It didn't feel like a big cheat. It was quite satisfying.
The end rib, I've just properly noticed.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, the end rib, that is lovely. I like that you're in the spirit of this. I salute you, sir. I assume, again. There are some fun comments to it. I will point out, because Dr. Prepper, you noticed this. I can add to that. That's true. So in German, the word for citizen is Bürger. So the same there. Bürger going from obviously Burg of an area, which is how you end up with bourgeois. It's the same root effectively. So yeah, the thing is still there. That root of Bürger referring to citizen is still very obviously there in German. I mean, isn't the obvious other thing is that hamburger isn't is it a burger made of ham, or is it because it's from Hamburg? I can't remember. Or is that just someone from Hamburg? I might have just invented why it's called that. Oh, anyway. Fez, it was bathtub gin. Vermouth, I'm afraid it was just a dry standard. It was nothing stand out. We don't have our Noily Pratt, I'm afraid. Ratio, it was 5-1 on the spirit to vermouth. Garnish was a very large olive. What type of olive was it? I don't know, but it was from Borough Market and delicious. Yeah, Borough Market olives, absolutely massive, not too bitter, very soft, and had a little bit of the brine in there to keep it a bit dirty. And is this a coupe glass? Yes, or is I think so. A coupe glass is what we have. I hope that specification is right. Yes, I'm we were slumming a bit on the vodka, but sorry, on the vermouth, but it turned out very nice. So let's see. I like this. I like something that so clearly lays out the rules here and has someone win through intelligence.
Yes.
That's nice writing.
I would like her to go and do something more meaningful with her life than sex work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown if it's like, and her prize was she went back to being a prosy. Congrats. It's like
stooped by incestuous old men.
Yeah, but
what a treat.
It's a bit of a downer if you think of it like that. I would I would probably challenge this a little bit though.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where maybe the film's writer's background on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver starts to show a bit. I think this is a bit glorifying of the normie, of the high-end diners don't appreciate the food, which, yeah, this is what we've seen. They don't appreciate the elite food. And the real satisfaction and love of food comes from a normie having a cheeseburger. Do you think it's fair to doubt that a little bit? Like, is a cheeseburger something really savoured, or do cheeseburgers end up vomited down the uni drains with 2 pints of Carling landing swiftly on top of them? You know what I mean? Like, is the normie really savouring a cheeseburger as much?
I mean, I think that's probably an interesting whole other question, is you do have all those sort of fancy restaurants that do sort of gourmet burgers. And it's sort of like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's still, it's not, and it's never going to be fine dining. And that's not the point of it. So yeah, it's never, and really it's kind of weird when you serve one as if it's something to, well, I don't know. You know, it's nice making them yourself and sort of having a moment where you sort of enjoy them and savor them. But yes, generally, I think, particularly I want a really good cheeseburger. It's like the way it was, I suppose what I'm trying to say is the way it was done in the film is it's not about, you know, making burgers with your family and enjoying them at a July the 4th barbecue. It's about, this is what normal people eat, so F you, society. So yeah, it's very much not, I mean, maybe we're just showing our inner snobbery here.
Well, no, you could, all I'm saying is I don't think this worship of, you can try and take down the elite level of snobbery, but you don't have to say, and therefore the 3 a.m. kebab is actually the food of champions and saints.
That's
which
true.
I got a little bit of a vibe of this. If the real meaning is she knows that he needs to satisfy, and she can say, look, I just want you to make me something that I will actually love to eat, that will be delicious, and you can have something really simple and uncomplicated and show you, I've mangled that. What you don't have, basically she is rejecting the fancy ephemera. They're sort of playing a game of sophistication and substitution and, you know, trying to be super clever about it.
Deconstructed s'mores.
Exactly. And just say, show me you're an amazing chef by making me a cheeseburger. And make me really, I mean, isn't there that story about you're applying for a job at one of the highest end hotels and they say, make me an omelette?
Yeah, and it's just a plain omelette, because the idea is, can you make it, you know, I mean, to be fair, it's a pretty good test of skill. It's like you've got one or at most a sort of very small number of ingredients, and it's, do you have the skills to cook it correctly and well and to a high quality? And I think actually, the comments have made me change my mind. I think it's possibly some of it is to do with the British versus the American experience of burgers. I think British burgers are not really the same thing. I had a
well, we're not having a go at burgers. We want to stress we love burgers.
But
Chat,
I think
you haven't seen me demolish pizza. I am not a complete snob in this.
Well, what I was going to say is, and hopefully the Yanks will like it. A friend of mine spent a year teaching at a school in America, a fairly posh one, and every year in the summer they'd have each house in the school. It was the kind of school that had houses. They would have a kind of barbecue competition where it was students from different parts of the states would all gather together. So not houses, but it was like, the students who were all from Texas would gather together, and the students who were all from Louisiana would gather together, and they'd all have just this whole school barbecue where they do the barbecue of their state's kind of typical style. And so my friend Will, when he was there, was invited to join in, and so did like a British barbecue, which is just the most disappointing burger ever. A little bit of limp lettuce, a slightly stale bun, and sort of an attempt at a salad and some rubbish chips. And he had like umbrellas for people because he was like, it's obviously going to rain. This is a British barbecue.
Oh, I like that. I do like that. That's
so I
wonderful.
think we don't have the same cultural appreciation of a burger.
But if it is just a test of make a simple thing and make it amazingly well, then this kind of works for me. I mean, we were referencing martinis earlier, and that is the perfect example of something that is so simple, and it's just all about your skill.
And it's also, it is about that satisfying. And the way I saw it was, it's also about him returning to his roots. You see that time when he was happiest was when he was just flipping burgers. Yeah. And he was making good food and filling people up. And there's I suppose there's two ways of looking at it. It's the allowing him to return to his roots, because he does say at one point in the film that he doesn't enjoy cooking for people anymore. He hasn't found someone that he would love to cook for. But doesn't he say that he would love to cook for her? Or did I just make that up?
I don't remember. He definitely says he doesn't enjoy it anymore. And what she's effectively giving him is proof she understands him, a chance to feel the love for cooking once more, and then still go out in glory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lovely touch here, as we've talked about, with the final ending with everything burning down as part of s'mores. But this is a film about consumption, eating, consuming, and in the end they themselves are all consumed in fire. You talk about when something burns up, you would talk about it being consumed as well. So it's a nice...
I'd like to backpedal on my
backpedal
discursive unicycle for a second.
Oh yeah,
because there's the reading we've both come to about the cheeseburger, and it's about that connection with him, which is the one I quite like. There's one that Fez has also pointed out, which is about potentially having a premier chef cooking a cheeseburger is, in one view, perhaps demeaning. And given that we've my brain has just frozen.
You were reading the chat.
Yeah, someone mentioned me, and I was like, wait, hold up.
You've got Hassan brain. You read the chat and you stopped thinking. I should
look away. Yes.
You need some nuggies.
Bugger off. Yes, given that we've seen earlier in the film, she's been so dismissive of and too cool for school about the whole food and the, why would you do this? This is pointless. I'm hungry. There's nothing to eat here. Kind of whinging. You could see one reading of that "Make Me a Burger" is also that kind of last hurrah of like, screw you, I don't buy into your standards. I don't think that's how it comes across. I don't think that fully holds together in the film, but there is an element of that, I would say.
I'm afraid I've just seen Jay's comment, J828, and as crass a joke as it is, it's actually quite a good point about the film attempting to normalize her normalize and glamorize the type of work she was doing. However, I will not be reading this comment out on stream, but Jay, that's pretty funny. Good job. It's funny and it's also a good insight. I love having a smart chat. You guys are fantastic. Also, while we're here, TCG, hello, my friend. Don't worry about it. I know you're absolutely snowed under, as you told me, so it's all good. Me and Waifu have been covering the film. If If you manage it though, mate, I would love to know what you gave this in burgers. I would love to know your score. So thanks very much. And TCG also giving fantastic advice here. If you haven't smashed the like button already, you gotta serve that nice like button on a nice platter there. And if you haven't subscribed already, then absolutely just chase that subscribe button all around the island until you've tracked it down and dragged it back to be stabbed in the thigh.
Until you've tracked it down to a chicken coop and served it a fancy egg next to a lovely girl who was probably quite surprised by the whole thing.
It's a lovely chicken. Did you recognise the type?
They are probably actually not laying hens. They are probably...
Oh,
yeah,
that's why I wouldn't know.
Yeah, they looked quite heavy set, so they look like meat birds. And I'm trying to think what one of the standard hybrids in America for meat is. They grow super, super fast. So she'd only have been about 6 months old.
Oh,
which
she's
is
very
sad.
plastic. Yeah,
She was a lovely looking girl. I mean, she looked relatively healthy.
They were lovely chickens.
Normally, when they're that old, they can't actually walk. So it might not be. It might be a healthier type of chicken.
You know, I would have thought that for that production, I would think the Hawthorne restaurant, the elite restaurant, would have a heritage bird. Like they would be really picky about. We've only got ours from a Rhode Island red or a Transylvanian naked neck. You know,
those are the weirdest looking birds.
For the novelty.
I think Rhode Island reds might be hybrids, but no, then are they? No, maybe. I now feel the need to go and consult a book on chickens.
They could be. Anyway, there's some wibbling over this ending, but nevertheless, over exactly what the meaning of it is. But nevertheless, it is a clever bit of writing. I mean, let me just put it to you, waifu.
Mm-hmm.
If Anya Taylor-Joy had, I don't know, got her final cigarette out and then just put it out in a staff member's face and then legged it and just been girl bossing it off the island that way, we'd be knocking burgers off like crazy.
Yes.
When you think of that as the other option versus a smart character-based decision and a bit of rules lawyering, that's well within the scope of what the film has told us.
Yes, and it was nicely within character and within the kind of... It was a nice payoff to various things we'd seen earlier. And also that she hadn't... It wasn't like she saw the picture of him flipping burgers, came back into the restaurant and went, "Wait, you used to be a burger chef and now you're doing this. You must have been so happy cooking burgers for people and now you are cooking for pretentious hacks." You know, they didn't spell it out. They just left it there. And it was only kind of on reflection after she asked him for a burger and you could see him enjoying it and everyone kind of gathered around watching and being like, wow, he's more animated than he has been on film. It was a nice kind of... yeah, I'm not watching chat. My brain has just frozen anyway because it's past my bedtime. It was a nice fulfillment of that subtle moment earlier and of some of the other conversations that have been happening throughout the rest of the film. I have noticed, I'm not a chat mod and I'm not obsessed with chat, but I have noticed Dr. Prepper ask about the scene where the member of the Coast Guard comes in. I didn't think he was actually a Coast Guard.
You were never convinced?
No, I think he was a paid stooge. Because he specifically referenced the film that he knows about hates.
I know. I think you were meant to be tense about whether the Coast Guard that was summoned was actually... you know what? I think I am going to have a little disagreement with the film on this, that this is maybe a bit of weak writing. I was going to say this about another element, but I might as well say it now. Okay, so chat. We're going a little longer on this because I'm going to be rating this film really highly. But I want to be balanced, and I think there might be some plot holes here. So there.
Is that thumping you, or is there someone breaking?
Oh, that's me.
Okay.
I'm tapping on something, so don't worry.
Moment of paranoia.
Okay.
Thought we were going to live stream a murder.
Okay, so there are two significant bits related to Margot, and one of them is Chef Slowick asks her to fetch a barrel from his cottage, right?
Yeah.
And his head.
No, it's not the cottage, it's the smokehouse.
Smokehouse, sorry. Okay. But his main right-hand man, played by, I want to say, Hong Chow, not an actor I'm familiar with. Basically, she's the boss. She's in charge, right? She is total
She's the maitre d', yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't know about that, and she's super upset, right?
Yes.
She's super upset that she wasn't told about this need to bring a barrel in, which then goes to Margot.
Yeah.
Right? Bear that in mind. Margot goes into the cottage, breaking the orders, and uses the fake radio, right? Now, they didn't know until that day that Margot was a replacement. So how did they why did they have the fake radio planned? Why did they have the fake Coast Guard planned? Why is the maitre d' suddenly not knowing about the barrel?
Yes.
That is quite a weird last-minute change in the plan and of a very, very significant nature.
Yes, it's a they talk about the fridge problem where you watch a film and you think it all hangs together until you go to the fridge later and you go, wait, hold up. This is the kind of industrial cold room equivalent.
Yeah, I think I'm in
an industrial freezer and I've gone, oh, wait, hold up.
It was at some point when you were talking about the setup, I just realised, wait a second, wait a minute, Matt. That doesn't make any sense. You know? Yeah, so that just threw me off. I could be wrong, but I think that is possibly a massive plot hole in the film. Anyway, so the Coast Guard scene, I think once we get over that slight problem, I'm just looking for the comment with it. I liked the scene. It was tense moderately. It held the tension very well, and it had that little giveaway of, are people going to break cover? There are opportunities where the scene could have taken a different direction. It had little hints. I thought it was very well done. Like the fact that the Coast Guard names the movie, John Leguizamo's character's movie that had been referenced earlier.
Yeah.
I thought was quite an early clue. So I was very happy with it, basically. Was there anything else, or have we? I think we might have it.
I think we might have everything. I do want to just add one thing, which is that I think it was Bilbo talking about bantams. And yes, bantams are lovely and they do lay tiny eggs. We have a bantam called Kimchi and she lays tiny eggs.
Yes.
Good. I feel like that's important information.
Oh, kimchi's wonderful.
Yes, I was wondering why you weren't joining in with the kimchi love.
I was just wondering if this question about a secret Discord was about any secret Discord here. There's no secret Discord for this. I've been told I should make a Discord, which might actually help me organize a few things. But I'm actually a massive boomer outside of video production.
Oh,
I don't know how I'd handle it.
There's a potential hidden twist to the ending. Maybe the chef made the burger from meat that has been aged for over 152 days, hence the smile.
Oh, right. So that was a reference to something right at the start of the film. Hopefully I'm not spoiling it for anyone. About if you eat the protein at the wrong time, you'll probably pick up a deadly condition from the bacteria. Hence it has to be aged at exactly the right time. So maybe
that would be quite
I
nice.
I would like that. I'm seeing chickens being spammed in the chat and I couldn't approve any more. But I mean, we have now gone. I thought we'd be short, but this is a really great film.
Yeah.
There's such a good film to talk about. So whilst we're on the right side of Super Nanny, I think we'll move into closing thoughts and scores. And chat, I want to see scores from you. I think I saw one come in already. I think Victoria dropped 10 burgers for this, and TCG has dropped his score. So, waifu, would you? Oh, where is it? I'm just looking for TCG score.
I just saw the comment of head is quarter pounding. Nice.
Oh, bless. That's a good point. I like it. Wife, you go first.
Wife. All right, woman.
Proceed.
Proceed, woman. All right, my woman. Yeah, I would say it was probably a 9 out of 12 burgers. Possibly would have been a 10, but knocking a bit off for the I would have said not hugely subtle characterization of Nicholas Holt's character. I think I saw in chats briefly some people saying actually they found him a bit of a dick. I can see that. I still found him a bit endearing, and then it was kind of a bit two-dimensional. He was either endearing happy puppy, or suddenly the writers have been like, oh wait, you're not supposed to like him, let's make him a knob. So yeah, taking a bit of a burger off for that sort of unsubtle characterization and some of the sort of moments of lack of subtlety, and another half a burger off for the plot hole, some of the plot holes, some of the kind of forced elements. But overall, yeah, I would say it's a very fine, nicely marbled beef.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beef burger made of nicely marbled beef, a good sort of blend of fat and beef in it, with some fancy pepper jack cheese, a little bit of kimchi, I'd say kimchi or sauerkraut.
Oh, an egg with sauerkraut on top of it, yeah? Or is that
kimchi as in like actual kimchi?
Oh,
not the chicken.
Not our
the
beautiful
cabbage product.
Not our beautiful chicken called kimchi.
No, I'm not putting her in an oven.
Not an egg from her.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, fancy beef, a nice maybe a fried egg on top with a little bit of sauerkraut, and some sweet potato fries with a bit of aioli.
Nice. I got confused with the taking burgers off and on. Just the
so it's 9 out of 12.
9 out of 12.
It would have been 10, but I'm quibbling.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm seeing a 10 out of 12.
I'll eat it on a boat watching the world burn.
We've got 9s. We've got 10s.
Hi, Gats.
Okay. So for me,
all right, woman.
I absolutely loved the design of this film. I loved that it didn't give us the message when I thought it was giving us the message. And crikey, that's a big relief for me as well. Performances, I thought across the board were amazing. The only ones I'd probably question were Anya Taylor-Joy. I didn't like the girl bossing as much. I wanted some vulnerability.
She wasn't wearing a bra, but I didn't see her nipples, which was unsettling.
I did not notice that. I was going to make a pun about missing a couple of points for that, but this is a classy stream and we wouldn't make that joke here.
Which is why I don't get invited on very often.
More coming in. Hello. Ralph Fiennes and Holt absolutely steal the show. John Leguizamo, I was so happy to see. I thought Janet McTeer as a critic was really good as well. There was also a sous chef who was wonderfully psychotic and just the woman, yeah. I mean, this could have been a 3.5 hour stream easily if we went into every last detail. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it muchly. However, I'm taking some points off for slightly garbled stuff like the MLK Jr. quote, which I think was there to serve one purpose, but actually caused some contrivances. We've got the plot holes we covered here. Some weaker characterization. But otherwise, I'm not taking too much off here. It was smart.
It's not a horror.
Funny. It's not a horror at all. It's a thriller.
It's very tense, psychological thriller, I'd say.
Yeah, there were moments where they could have easily pushed the horror a lot more, but I think it would have broken the tone. So let's just treat it as a kind of American Psycho Parasite style, fourth wall breaking, highly stylized, extremely dark comedy. And yes, the NRA, we absolutely appreciate Soy Bat Walsh, who I was so distracted by the whole time. And so yeah, I think I can't take up too much. I think it didn't resonate with me emotionally as much. So maybe I make it like it's a 10. It's 10 burgers. They are pristine Wagyu beef in a brioche bun with some Emmental on top and served with, I think served probably with Primitivo by the side. Something we didn't talk about as much was that absolutely poncy sommelier.
I loved him. He was having the time of his life.
I went back and he starts off talking with a strong French accent that he drops by the end of the film. And he seems to just drop it as he goes on.
So it gets less French rather than an accidental.
Yeah, like he's really putting it on at the start and then he drops it. Another detail I'm going to look after.
That's brilliant. I think having at the start, I was like, oh, it's not really a comedy. Actually, I take that back. There is, yes, dark comic elements.
Extremely dark. Focused a lot more on delivering the story and character well. There are cheap scares they could have done, and there are cheap laughs they could have gone for, and they avoid it. So it's a well-earned 10. John Gorris, all I can say is, man, you got to be darn careful if you ever follow anything actors you like say. Mike Flanagan breaks my heart, man. Well, he's a director and writer, but who was it? Jeffrey Coombs. Followed his Twitter for a bit. Oh, that was depressing. Oh dear. Yeah. Anyway, hey Adam, you're just coming in. We are rounding off the stream, but we have been talking about the menu from 2022. Maybe you managed to miss all the spoilers, so you can enjoy it afresh, hopefully. But we are big fans of this film. We absolutely loved it. It was a gamble, and it paid off. I really loved it. So, just want to say hi anyway. All right, well, we are pretty much at the end. So now you know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to be talking about the horror homework. We have an absolutely packed month ahead of us. March is going to be Christian perspectives of horror. So I've had to get some very special guests in. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be horror reviews that are very atypical, giving a perspective that you're probably not going to hear very many places. And I think it should be really, really interesting. I've also got 2 bonus streams I'm going to do. One of them I'm going to I might chicken out, but I am planning to do one of my bonus streams on Pet Sematary as requested by Marina as effectively a watch-along commentary. I'm going to see how it goes. I think it could be fun. Hopefully. Right. But the thing you need to know, the immediate homework is going to be The Mist.
Ooh.
That is, I want to say 2006, 2007. It is Frank Darabont's The Mist. We're going to be joined by Aidan Paladin. We'll be discussing The Mist and the Buffyverse, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and how they discussed Christian faith. Which was kind of because they had a difficult time in how they discussed it. They never really got some rules for that. And I thought, I know Aidan is massively into Buffy, so that'll be a great conversation. Lambda is going to be on. Yes. 2 people saying, is Lambda going to be on? Yes. Lambda is going to be the last one in that series in March. And I'm going to put up a whole thing for the whole month because I'm covering a lot and I want to give people advance warning. I will give you advance warning on... and Fez as well asked. I'm going to give you advance warning as well for week 2 because week 2, we've got Connor from Lotus Eaters coming on. And we're going to be discussing Midnight Mass by Mike Flanagan. Ooh. And because that's a TV series... There are 7 episodes, about 50 minutes long. I want to give you advance warning so you can watch it. Really good series. So, yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Also, I think I'm set to appear on Lambster. We'll see if that's confirmed anyway. But we'll definitely have Lambda on here. So, advance warning. Next week, we're doing The Mist by Frank Darabont. And the week after, Midnight Mass by Mike Flanagan. So hopefully that'll be good. Yeah, I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. Let's see. Oh, and a final question. Holy. Are we going to do The Empty Man? You know, a few people have asked me about this. We watched it.
Didn't we talk about it?
We watched it. I'm not sure we talked about it on stream. I was asked, Poe wanted me to look at it. And then so I had I know I had a conversation with her about it. But I don't think we discussed The Empty Man on stream. Oh. Weirdly, we watched the director of The Empty Man's short film. It was 1200 AM. That's really good. You can find,
Oh, so good.
yeah, really good. You can find that on Vimeo if you want that. It's about 40 minutes or something. But that was a lovely little short story.
That was a recommendation from someone on Instagram.
Yeah, I think we could cover The Empty Man, but that might be an audience request. And TCG asking about Winnie the Pooh,
We really don't
Blood
have-
and Honey.
We really don't have to do Winnie the Pooh. I'm not even a regular member of this channel, but we really don't have to.
Oh dear. All right. Well, I want to make sure we stay on the right side of Super Nanny, so I'll start ending the stream now. You have got your horror homework it's going to be such a good month. We're going to have another real horror versus real horror coming out very soon as well. That I don't know if it's dropping next weekend or after, but that's ready. There's loads of stuff coming. I want to put a massive thank you out to you for having a nice lively chat. I've loved seeing everything you've been discussing. The response to this has been brilliant. You guys have been cracking me up as well and making raising the game, basically making some really intelligent observations. I love it because then I can just steal them straight from the chat. It makes my life easier. So massive thanks to you, chat. Massive thanks to you as well, waifu.
You're welcome.
Well, we were just talking about this film for an hour after we watched it. So I thought, I think everyone else should enjoy it as well. Enjoy your wonderful insight.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you, Gatsby, for yowling so much, you beautiful flat-faced tabby.
He's elderly and angry.
Yeah. So that is all for tonight. You've got your horror homework. You have my appreciation. And I will end the stream with a thank y'all and cheers. TCG's not here to say it, so we should probably as well. #ChillGang.